Today we remember Pope Saint Leo the Great, great pope in the early church. Probably one of his most famous and known act and courageous act he's the one that when Attila was leading the Huns bearing down upon Rome, he went out by himself to meet them, to hold them back. And that's one of the things that he gives a good example, a great example of what a pope does, a leader does, someone living out their baptismal call is essentially to call out balls and strikes. Right? What I mean by that is so in the first reading, wisdom, in the book of wisdom, is that we want to grow in wisdom. God wants to give us this gift of wisdom. And wisdom is incompatible with sin. So you can see the more we grow in wisdom, it should allow us to be able to see, okay, this is not healthy for me. We should be able to have a greater insight and growth and be able to make these prudent and virtuous choices. Right? And it's this realization, the more we grow in wisdom, the more we realize this incompatibility between holiness and sin. So it should slowly move us in that direction towards virtue, away from vice. And we see this in the gospel today too, that, again, it's like, the seriousness that Jesus wants us to take this, right? Be on your guard. It would be better for him if a millstone would put around his neck and be thrown into the sea than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin. It's not just about us. It's about what we do that affects others. We may not be the one that's essentially sinning, but are we being permissive? Are we? And this is the thing too. This is sometimes what happened in our world. The danger sometimes of living in a pluralistic society. All these ideas, not every idea is equal and can coexist, such as wisdom and sin. And we must be able to call it out. But sometimes we get to the spot of trying to be like, well, we don't want to be too judgmental. We want to be compassionate. All these different, and we get a little bit too cozy and permissive with these things that are sins. But it's something that's happened in society too, where we get we become too identified with the sin itself. So that if I call this out, it becomes an attack on the person. At least the perception of it is, which is not the case. Like, for instance, a good example of this is like cohabitation. Right? We should not be comfortable with that reality. But sometimes we get too permissive. I don't want to be too judgy because if I call it out, it says, I'm attacking them. No, you're attacking the act. And it should invite a conversation. Just as Leo the Great came out and said, Attila, this is not good what you're doing. Taking a horde and trying to overtake this city. I'm calling you out. And I'm being a man and stepping forward to address you as such. Right? You are not the sin. Just as he says, if your brother sins, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. This is what we do as brothers and sisters in the Lord, to help each other grow in holiness. And therefore we have to be able to be able to identify what sin is correctly and realize this is not healthy. Again, it's not an easy task, when we're dealing with one another and dealing with people. And it's uncomfortable at times, but it's important to do. It is a work of mercy. And it has societal ramifications. Because if we get too permissive, we get to a society that loses its ability and its desire to care about each other. Right? To the point now, people have no problem not thinking about human beings, but will do everything to protect and care for animals. To me, that's, again, it's like this is a perversion of certain elements of reality. We've gotten to this point in our society. And so it invites us, how is this challenging us in our own day, in our own life today? Am I able, is there someone in my life, there's someone that I'm journeying and walking with, that the Lord is calling me to love on them in this way? Again, am I open to, if something's going on in my life, am I open to somebody's rebuke? If someone comes to me and seeks true repentance, am I willing to forgive them, as Jesus commands us? What's this relationship that I have? What's my relationship with desiring wisdom and sin? Do we realize their incompatibility? If I grow in one, the other should reduce. So on this day, let us take let us learn from the example of Pope St. Leo the Great, who took seriously his spot in the church to stand in the breach, to be able to, in wisdom, call out sin when he saw it, not just simply because he had authority to wield it, but to simply out of love for the bride of Christ, the church, and all who make up of it. And so do we too. By our baptism, we die with Christ and are risen again with Christ, and we are given that threefold responsibility of priest, prophet, and king. And we can speak with some authority. We can pray with people and intercede for people. Right? And to be able to take a look around and look at and to read the signs of the times and potentially, like, okay, if we continue down this path, I can see where this can end up, and this is not a good thing. We have to be able to take hold of our baptismal call and live it out well, and to take seriously what Christ calls us here. And we should not be, again, comfortable with sin in our own lives and in the lives of others, and seek each and every day to grow in wisdom, to find good, holy, and Christ-like ways to purify ourselves from our own sinful tendencies and to help one another in theirs as we continue to journey together to live out the life of holiness that God has made us for and desires us to fully embrace.